Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I call this meeting to order.
Okay, are you ready for a roll call vote? Not vote, sorry, roll call, just roll call.
Just roll call, yes, that'd be great.
Catching up, switching from work into this, I'm catching up. Okay, roll call, Judith Humberg.
I vote that I'm here.
Thank you, Judy. James Oku.
Here.
Natalie Sayre, who we just heard is not going to be able to join. Vacant position farmer, we'll skip that one. Jonathan Winslow.
I'm here.
Thank you, Jonathan. John Vars.
I'm here.
Thank you, John. Another vacant position. Peter Markey. Oh, I don't see him on the comments. Okay, no Peter so far today. Ryan Casey.
Here.
Thanks, Ryan. Fred Crowder. I haven't seen him yet. And I am Lauren Silverman, Ag Business, and I am here. Okay, our non-voting members, Natural Resource Conservation Staff, Jim Howard. Okay, San Mateo County Agricultural Commissioner, Corin Whittle.
Here.
Hello, thank you. Farm Bureau Executive Director, Jess Brown.
Here.
And Jess. San Mateo County Plant Staff, Summer Burleson.
Here.
Thanks. UC Co-op Extension Representative Frank McPherson. We have 3 voting members vacant, which means we have a quorum. Vacant, absent. I'm still catching up.
Okay, so we have a quorum. Thank you, Lauren. Here, I'm always unsure how to word our third one, but maybe to streamline, I could just say I will move that we adopt a resolution that as a result of the continuing COVID-19 pandemic state of emergency, meeting in person would present imminent risks to the health and safety of attendees.
Thanks, John. I'll second that. Now are we ready for a roll call vote? I'll take no answer as a yes. So Judy.
Yes.
John, sorry, James.
Yes.
Jonathan.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
And I'm Lauren, and I vote yes. I always feel like I'm in a camp, but I vote yes to passing this motion, and it passes unanimously.
Great, and then next item on the agenda is oral communications to allow the public to address the committee on any matter not on the agenda. If your subject is not on the agenda, we will recognize you at this time. So anybody from the community, if you know how to raise your hand, or that'd be the best way for us to see you there.
On a phone and want to raise your hand?
It's *9 if you're on a phone.
Okay, thanks. I don't see any hands raised so far. We've got some new and some regular folks attending.
Okay, we could move on to members of the committee. This is the committee member update and or questions to allow committee members to share news and or concerns for items not on the agenda.
I'll just jump in here. I raised my hand. I have you and on the agenda. This is not on agenda, so I understand if we, and considering what happened between our last meeting and this meeting, we may just want to focus on agenda item number 6, but I have an outline of our recommendations on the, my gosh, I just had to spontaneously like deroot itself next to me. Okay, anyway, sorry, sidebar. So I have an outline of our recommendations for updates to the Ag Tourism guidelines, and I realized I needed to get some feedback from the committee before I could do a final draft of that letter for us to review together. So I don't know if it's appropriate, we have time in this meeting to do that, or if that's something we can just do together in the next meeting. But I have the outline and bunch of notes on what our recommendations are going to be, and just need to understand, like I have a note on farm dinners. I have one note that says 48. I have one note that says 60. And so I need some feedback from the committee on, did we say 48 or did we 60? So Summer, I kind of defer to your guidance on what makes the most sense for this meeting. Should just kick that one that didn't get on the agenda, or if
I think I would
I'm
recommend,
rambling, I think you get the point.
oh, sorry. Oh, I think I would recommend if you want to, we can coordinate and add it to the next agenda and maybe identify, what kind of outstanding questions for the committee. We can send that in the packets, and then people have time to maybe digest it, and then hopefully we can discuss it. You guys can come to some resolutions on any outstanding questions and just vote on it at the next meeting to send it on.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
That's kind of, yeah, that makes sense. Kind of what we did for the subdivision letter just ago, which I had to forget about. But I did a draft and I like highlighted what needed feedback and consensus. So I can kind of create a draft with some notes as a discussion guide for us to finalize in the next meeting, if that works for everyone on the committee.
That sounds good to me, Lauren. Thank you so much for being willing to do that.
I'm just sorry it's not on the ambitious time schedule I would like it to be. Like I wanted to have it right for you guys this meeting, but we'll do it next meeting.
Thank you. Judy, you have your hand raised?
I do. I actually, I've got a lot of stuff on my plate, and I'm going to be moving out of the area to the Sonoma County area in the next 8, 10, 12 months. So I am needing to resign from the committee. I'm sorry to say. And I just want to thank you all for helping me through and learn how to participate as a public member. And I wish you all well.
Well, thank you, Judy. We've appreciated your contribution.
Thank you.
You warned this would happen, but doesn't make me any happier that you're leaving us, but really excited for your next moves and wish you all the best and hope you won't be a stranger in Half Moon Bay.
Yeah, I hope not to.
And I'll know who to hit up for coffee next time I'm up in Guerneville area. Was it
There you
Guerneville
go.
or? Okay, Guerneville.
Yeah, Healdsburg, Santa Rosa area. Guerneville's close enough.
Exactly. It's in the area.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a real pleasure working with you. Thanks for everything you've done for the committee.
Oh, thank you all. I will miss you.
Okay, look at Summer
Okay.
and Commissioner.
Summer,
Thank you. Yes, I also just wanted to add, unfortunately, we received news from Fred Crowder late this afternoon that he is also resigning from the committee effective immediately. It sounds like primarily due to, and he's mentioned this before, I think, in past meetings, but other personal obligations and responsibilities have been consuming more of his time. And so he's unable to dedicate time necessary for this committee. So just wanted to make that announcement, and also just, although Fred's not here, to both Fred and to Judy, just on behalf of the county, express, the county's appreciation for your guys' service on this committee, and the time and dedication that you've put into serving this committee and helping to, support, the main goal of this committee in protecting and preserving agricultural resources in the county. So thank you. It's been a pleasure working with you.
And thanks for letting us know about Fred. I'll be sure to reach out and wish him well as well. That will trigger, though, he had under duress volunteered to take over the secretary role for me. So perhaps at the next meeting, we can have an agenda item again.
Yeah.
Yes. And
You think he got scared off by the secretary position?
I wouldn't. Well, that is the extra time, so maybe we did.
Corin's shaking her head.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah.
He was always secretary for all of our commissioner association committees, so I don't think he's scared by that at all.
I will add, we do have both of these positions will be updating our recruitment to include both of these positions moving forward. And once that's updated, probably in the next day or two, that recruitment, I'll send that recruitment notification out to the members and through the our email blast that we send out to general distribution of subscribers.
Thanks.
Corin, did you have an announcement or two?
Yeah, I just have a couple announcements. I give this to Farm Bureau, but I know not everyone is at Farm Bureau, so I just want to let you guys know what I told Farm Bureau. So we have disaster assistance for agricultural producers. As you know, my department summarizes the disaster amounts, and we submit that to Farm Service Agency, and then that opens the door for grants and low interest loans for farmers. So to apply for these grants and low interest loans, you do want to reach out to USDA's Farm Service Agency. And in addition, to get the FEMA money, and I want all you guys to apply to both, because there could be some advantages to going through FEMA as well. So you want to apply through the FEMA money. It's 1-800, if you guys have a pen, write this down, 1-800-621-3362. And just to kind of give you guys the numbers that we've come up with, we have about $788,000 in damage to row crops, 50,000 in damages to Brussels sprouts. And then the big one is the physical damage that most farms have had. And that this is super rough estimate here, is about $2.29 million. And that's, again, a very rough estimate because no one really knows exactly what the damages are, especially when we were surveying them. So that's what we've reported to FEMA, to FASA, which is the Farm Service Agency. And so we have reported that 28 farms had physical losses to them. An update, we have updated our website with a couple things. One of them is the disaster relief, but we've also added a farm worker resources page too, to help kind of get information and resources out there for farm workers. And then in addition, we have our field worker pesticide safety training coming up next week, actually. So February 21st, we have a Spanish version will be at 10 a.m. and English at 1 p.m. in Pescadero School District Boardroom. And then on February 22nd, at the Half Moon Bay Library, we'll have 2 sessions in Spanish, one at 9 a.m. and one at 2 p.m. and then one in English at 11 a.m. So if you are interested in getting your field workers there to get trained on pesticide safety, which is an annual requirement, please RSVP with our office. You can email us at smatteoag@smcgov.org. And that is what I have for an update today.
Just one quick clarification question. So I grab it for the minutes. smatteoag@smcgov.org.
Yep.
Okay. And then the 800 number, was that for FEMA? Or was
Yes,
that
that's for
Farm Bureau?
FEMA. For FEMA, yeah.
Okay, got it.
I can give the
Thanks.
number for Farm Service Agency too, actually, if you are ready for that one.
I'll drop it in the minutes.
Okay, 831-424-7377. And that's their Salinas office.
Salinas office for 737.
Sorry, 831-424-7377.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Oops.
Oh, Chair Vars, you're on mute.
Excuse me. I was saying I thought that information went out with the request for the crop report information. You had a page in there that had probably all of those phone numbers there as well.
Yes, I'm emailed it and mailed it. And also it's on our website as well.
Great. Anyone else? The only announcement I had was I was also privy to Fred's resignation, but we've already covered that. And yeah, just like to say thank you to both Judy and Fred for their service. And I think we should maybe move on to the briefing. Item number 6.
Thank you, Chair Vars. And nice to see all of you tonight. I'm Steve Monowitz. I'm the Director of the Planning and Building Department. I know many of you, and for those of you that I don't, thank you for your service to this committee. Boy, what a start to the year. And I know you guys know better than anyone else about the impacts of the storms and then this tragedy that occurred in Half Moon Bay. And so, you know, our immediate response, of course, was with regard to the families impacted by the tragedy. The county, with the help of others, and thanks to the City of Half Moon Bay staff that I know are on the call today, and many of you who I'm sure have been involved in the response. We've been providing emergency housing and support services to the 19 families that were displaced by this event. And tomorrow on the board agenda, there's a funding proposal to provide ongoing support for these folks. And, you know, there's investigations going on at the farms at which the impacted employees worked. Those investigations are ongoing. But what I'm here to speak to you about tonight is how this incident has really renewed interest in ensuring that employee housing is safe and properly permitted. And so to that end, we formed an interdepartmental task force that's going to be tackling this challenge. When I say interdepartmental, I mean Planning and Building Department, Environmental Health, Agricultural Weights and Measures, County's Attorney's Office, County Executive Office, District Attorney's Office. So we're all collaborating on what we can do to improve the living conditions for farm workers who reside in employee provided housing. And as many of you know, that the local regulations require that farm operators who provide housing to 5 or more workers need to be registered with the county. And so the goal of this group is really to work collaboratively with the farm operators to make sure that the employee housing being provided to the farm workers are up to code, health and safety codes. And we'd really like this to be a cooperative effort where should farm operators have housing that may be in need of some form of rehabilitation, that they'll reach out to us and that we can work together to address any safety issues that really need to be addressed. And, you know, short of collaboration, we will be doing investigations. We'll be relying on information that we have and information that we gain about where there might be concerns and where these issues need to be addressed. So we're just in the process of forming this committee right now. It consists of a working group of the staff members that are going to be dealing with this on a kind of day-to-day basis, as well as a leadership team that includes the county executive office and others. And we are open to your feedback and your input about how we proceed with tackling this challenge. And again, with the primary objective of making sure that employee housing is safe and to code, and to do so wherever possible in a collaborative way. So I will close it there and be happy to answer any questions and listen to your feedback in terms of how this group will be proceeding.
Lauren?
Sorry, I'd had to turn my video off. My internet's a little wobbly. But thank you so much for coming to provide us this briefing and just some updates on where the county's at and responding to the tragic events that took place on some of our local farms recently. I am involved in some community groups supporting farm workers, and through those community groups, was able to hear our new supervisor for D3, Supervisor Mueller, provide some updates as well on this process. Something that was interesting that I wanted to raise and share and kind of open up for discussion here is that one of the key barriers, and I know this is something that Commissioner Whittle, you've spoken to us about in the past, is that there's not an existing list of what farms are out there. So I'm wondering what the process is for, putting that together. And then second, Supervisor Mueller let us know that the county would be proceeding at the pace that allows for housing anyone that's displaced from red tagged housing units. So I just wondered if you could speak a little bit to those two items, if you don't mind.
Yes, I'd be happy to, and thanks for those questions. So with regard to developing a list of farm operators that we want to work with, we've got many different resources. In the planning and building department, some of you might recall back in 2012, we did a survey of farm operators who we thought might be interested in farm labor housing. And so we have a list of farm operators who expressed interest in farm worker housing that we will consolidate with other sources of data, including the data that Corn's office maintains and the data that environmental health maintains for registered farms with employee housing. But we're really seeking to build this data using a wide variety of sources. So any recommendations on how we might position ourselves to develop the most comprehensive list possible would be certainly welcome. So let's see, moving on to the second question or issue you raised, Lauren, is absolutely the making sure that the any farm workers who are not being housed in safe living conditions have a place to go is a top priority of this task force. And so we've got a good team of folks who will be working with any farm workers who might be in the need of some housing accommodations during this effort. And yeah, it's our intent that nobody will become unhoused as a result of these actions.
Great, thank you.
James has his hand up.
Hi, so a comment that I wanted to make was that we've been actually interested in increasing our farm labor housing for quite some time now, but I wanted to mention that one of our biggest issues has been dealing with water. And it used to be 10 plus years ago, I think, that the county was in charge of the water rights permitting within the county, and that it has now since moved to the state. And dealing with the State Water Resource Control Board for increased water from wells or from the creek has been incredibly hard to deal with and restrictive to us being able to provide more housing, which we desperately need. And so I was wondering if there was any way possible that part of this could be looking into the county retaking over those responsibilities.
Yeah, thank you for that comment, James. I recall that action that the county took to hand that responsibility back to the state. And I'd be happy to revisit that issue with my counterparts in environmental health. So I will do so and work with Summer to report back to you guys on what we learned.
It looks like there is an attendee with their hand raised.
Yeah, Rob Skinner from PMAC has his hand raised.
Do we have to unmute him? Rob, you're
Yes,
go
talking
ahead.
officially
I think we
permitted.
just, yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to get, okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Steve, I had a question of you. We had this conversation at our PMAC meeting about housing, farm labor housing. And the question was brought up about what can be mandated and what can't be mandated. Obviously, health can and building codes, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee that it's a good environment for children and or adults. Is there any guidance along those lines that one can have, or can you just tell us offhand?
Well, thanks for the question, Mr. Skinner. I think at this point, our primary focus is on essential health and safety features. We want to make sure there's safe water, that there's good sanitation, that any accommodations are not prone to a significant hazard such as a fire or something like that. So we're really focused on the most immediate health and safety needs. I appreciate and respect your perspective about some of the other qualities that go into good housing. And I think, with this situation, we have immediate needs, we have kind of medium-term needs, and we've got long-term needs. And when I break those down in terms of immediate, I'm thinking about, like what Lauren said, making sure that none of these folks go unhoused should they have to leave a place that's not safe. When I say medium term, I'm thinking of collaborating with the farm operators so that if there are housing units on their property, what can be done to bring them up to acceptable levels of health and safety. And then long term, I think gets more at the issue that you're thinking about, Rob, which is how do we provide quality housing in the right places and in the right environment for these folks over the long terms. And I think there's going to have to be a lot of thinking and effort that goes into figuring out those long-term solutions. And yeah, we'll be pleased to have your guys' input throughout this process.
Are you by chance working with Rita Mansoria at Puente down here?
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up. I think the nonprofits and non-government organizations have done a tremendous job of helping us be responsive. And yes, Puente, Alas, and others are definitely part of the team we're working with.
All right. Well, thanks, Steve. And please keep us in mind. We were fortunate we didn't have any catastrophes like you guys did in Half Moon Bay, but those things can happen at any time, I guess. So keep us in the loop. I just wanted to sit in on the meeting and see if I could get any update on the housing issues. So I appreciate your response. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Rob. Important comment there. Lauren, did you have your hand up again, or is that residual?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I was gonna just share some more as part of my involvement in the community group, the Farm Worker Affairs Coalition in the county. This is a topic we've been focused on for a number of years now. And just to share for transparency so the rest of the folks, a couple of things I wanted to absolutely reiterate James's point in terms of infrastructure. What we've heard consistently in this group and in the Farm Worker Affairs group and really anywhere you run into ag folks on the coast is that there's a strong desire to provide this housing, but have been limitations regarding water in particular. And then I know additionally, the county's farm worker housing loan program was recently updated based on feedback from both farm workers and farmers, and is primed to be used, I think. So really great that was updated. I know the city of Half Moon Bay is also very focused on this and recently approved an RFP for the 555 Kelly building to be turned into 40 housing units. That would include farm worker housing units. And the city is actively working on identifying other locations throughout the city that could be earmarked for affordable and farm worker housing units. Additionally, the last thing I just kind of wanted to throw out there is MidPenn recently updated I wouldn't say their mission, but their goals at the board level to include support for increasing housing. That was something we really worked a long time on lobbying them, that there was this real need for housing and that they have a lot of ag land that would be a great location for farm worker housing. So I think it was just over last summer, about 6 months ago, they updated at the board level the focus of their I forget if it's their values or their mission or their stated goals and objectives of the year to include increasing housing units. So, and also offered administrative support to anyone at the county who is interested in applying for the farm worker labor housing program. So I think the city of Half Moon Bay and Mid-Penn and others are going to be great partners in this work. And then finally, just to Mr. Skinner's note, Puente and Alas and Coastside Hope have been working wonderfully closely with the county, helping put together a list of farms, helping house folks, coordinate services. So they're definitely are a close partner to the county in this work moving forward. And I know that wasn't a lot of questions, but just wanted to contribute those other comments to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Ryan, the chair recognizes you.
Hi, Steve. I just wanted to voice that I thought this would be a good opportunity to really push for off-farm housing. I think San Mateo is unique in that a lot of the housing that agricultural workers live in are on farms, but in other areas that's not so much the case. And a lot of these farms, as James was saying, we have issues with groundwater, with getting good drinking water, and having gone through the whole process of putting in the homes in San Gregorio. There are just so many challenges around trying to establish housing on the farms. It's so costly, and it's hard to get septic fields to work right. It's just a number of issues. Not to mention that what farmers can afford to buy, be it through a loan program or out of pocket, are basically mobile houses, which aren't really built to have a long lifespan. So looking long term, it's just a band-aid as far as housing goes. And I just wanted to speak from my experience with the new homes that we put in, that already the maintenance costs are starting to really build up already, and these are the newer homes on the coast. So yeah, I really want to voice that. And it's a horrible thing that happened, but I am glad that it's bringing up the need for better housing and more of it on the coast, because that's really going to be a critical part about keeping agriculture going out here. I also wanted to voice that as this committee starts its investigations, and that it understands that ideally they're not putting an enormous amount of burden on the farmers that are already struggling out here, and that we're not in a profession that is so lucrative we can just take a big financial hit, and also that our labor situations are also challenging, and we don't want to lose employees if we lose their housing. So whatever housing is created in the interim, hopefully it isn't going to be a hit on that farmer. Thank you.
Thanks for those comments, Ryan, and for everything you've done to house your workers. And I think we have a real opportunity now. There's a lot of support from the state and elsewhere to try and provide quality housing, and I think you're absolutely right. We need to look off farm at sites that have the proper infrastructure and can sustain this over the long term. So I'm hopeful that this might present some opportunities for us to achieve exactly what you're suggesting. So thanks for your comments.
And I just wanted to put out there that as the comments are kind of dying down here, if things come to mind later on, Or if you know of someone else that would like to make comments, concerns, voice those concerns, please reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to me and I can help project those comments up to this task force as well. So I, will offer that service to you. Please let me know.
Yeah, thanks, Corin. And my line is open too. So if any of you would like to reach out to speak to me individually, I would be certainly happy to have that conversation.
And I'm not going to raise my hand, but I'll just say, however we can be of a help in this committee or as community members outside, if the Farm Worker Affairs Coalition can be a help, just let us know how we can support this effort.
Thank you, Lauren. So I don't have any further comments on that item. Chair Vars, if you'd like to move on.
Okay, thank you. Just waiting to see if there's any other comments or questions. Doesn't appear that anyone has their hand up. Thank you for making the time to speak with us, Steve, and let us know what the county's up to and with response to this tragedy. And it is exciting to think that this could be an opportunity to really do right by our farm worker community and make some improvements in what's available for them in terms of housing. So it's a potential positive outcome. Lauren, would you throw your hand up again? You kind of have a wonky internet. Okay, so our regular agenda is actually doesn't have a lot.
If you don't mind, I had one more little plug to make on short-term housing before we jump. That's kind of an addendum to this. Might
Yeah,
hang out
please do.
for a minute.
Yeah, I saw your hand there.
Yeah, sorry. The county and the city have really come together and provided temporary housing for the workers who were displaced from the mushroom farm. And the city of Half Moon Bay has put together a task force that's searching for open housing units on the coast to place the displaced farm workers in the short term. We're talking like 3 to 6 months while better options are coming available. So we are casting a wide net. If anyone knows of any available empty units across the coast, no limit on geography. Some of these families have cars, some don't, and they're placing folks without cars closer into work sites, but looking for units across the coast. So just blanket, if you know anyone that's got an empty unit that would be willing to engage in this process. We're looking for them. The city of Half Moon Bay is coordinating it with funding support from the county. So it's another great collaborative effort. But if you know of any empty units that could fit a small family or several single men, those are the kind of the groups that we're looking for. So just wanted to make sure to throw that out today.
Thank you, Lauren. Anyone else there? Yeah, I guess I had one comment too about temporary housing as it does go in. I think that will be an important component about where it's placed. I know that like during COVID, there was opportunities to house people over the hill. And I think for many farm workers, that wasn't as nice as it was to have a free place to stay in a hotel or something. It wasn't a very convenient situation for people who really have their lives focused on the coast and want to be close to their community and close to work. And I know that's an additional challenge because we are working with limited housing options on the coast, but just wanted to mention that. And with that, we can launch ahead to our lengthy regular agenda, which has a discussion and consideration, item number 3, on options for returning to in-person public meetings effective March 1st, 2023. So I thought we had a potential location in mind. I guess the question would become maybe if we're okay with continuing at the 7 p.m. time.
Chair Bars, if I may, we have Sophie Mintier, the Assistant Director of Planning and Building, is here this evening and to lead a discussion on this item. And it's related to just the approach and kind of logistics of returning to in-person meetings, which is goes into effect starting March 1st. So the next Ag Advisory Committee meeting would be in person, return to in-person, the next Ag Advisory meeting being March 13th. So if I may, I would recommend to pass it over to Sophie for this discussion.
Thanks, Summer, and thanks, Chair Vars. So I'll provide some quick background and then some of the options that we would like to present for the committee's consideration, and then the committee can also discuss the considerations such as the meeting location and all of that. So again, I'm Sophie Mintier. I'm the Assistant Director of Planning and Building, and I think most people by now are probably aware that back in the fall, Governor Newsom announced that the COVID state of emergency would officially end on February 28th, 2023. And as a result of that, Brown Act bodies, of which the Ag Advisory Committee is one, would no longer be able to conduct exclusively remote meetings after February 28th. So then beginning March 1st, all Brown Act bodies have to return to in-person meetings. So first, the requirements are very clear that for members of Brown Act bodies, boards, commissions, and committees like AAC, the members themselves must be returned to in-person meetings and must be in the room. Certainly, remote meetings have made it a lot easier for people to serve on these boards and volunteer their time on these boards. It's made it easier for the public to participate and also easier for the employees who staff these committees. But unfortunately, we don't have the ability to continue with fully remote meetings. So what this means is that all members of the AAC and every other board and committee must participate in meetings in person after March 1st, as we've discussed. This is state law, not a county decision. And there were always, in the past, prior to COVID, there were always some very narrow exceptions under the Brown Act that allowed members of these bodies to participate from other locations. But these exceptions were always very burdensome and impractical for the most part. For example, if you were participating remotely, that would have to be notated on the agenda, and your location would have to be accessible to the public. So they were not used under very many circumstances in the past, and it's unlikely that those exceptions would be used much going forward. There is a new state law that expands these provisions somewhat. It also allows for remote participation by members of the public and by staff. But as it pertains to staff, the requirements are still very narrow and very burdensome. So we recognize that hybrid meetings are pretty complicated. There are a lot of practical considerations that have to be worked out to allow for members to participate in public, in person, and for members of the public and or staff to participate remotely. We are working with staff in the county executive office to get some support and get some additional equipment to facilitate these kinds of hybrid meetings in some circumstances. But we are making a determination on a committee and board by board basis about whether to do fully in-person meetings or to allow for a hybrid meeting. The reason we're bringing all of this up is that having planning and building staff the AAC in person is challenging due to the combination of the coast-side location for the meetings. And due to the meeting time at 7 p.m., the majority of our planning staff do not live in the county. There are also many of our planners have caregiving responsibilities, no doubt that applies to many of you as well. And those factors can make it really difficult for staff to do this in person, to support this committee in person. So with that said, we wanted to put out a range of different options on the table for AAC's consideration and input about what that return to in-person meetings looks like. So I'd say option one would be shifting the meeting time to meeting during the day, like during the workday. I know that that can be quite difficult, but that would address some of the current challenges. Option two, shifting meeting time to be earlier in the evening. So right now the meeting starts at 7, perhaps considering a 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. start time, which might better facilitate participation for some members of the committee and for staff. Option three would be to have AAC members help facilitate the setup of the equipment that's necessary to allow for a hybrid meeting. The county is purchasing equipment like portable cameras to make that possible. So that would look like AAC members potentially taking on a more of a logistical role in making the committee work in that format. And option four would be having planning and building staff step back from the staffing and facilitation of the group, but still provide presentations, still come and speak whenever planning related items were on the agenda. So certainly we're open to other options as well, but we wanted to bring these forward for discussion and get the committee's input. In terms of the meeting location, I know that Summer has been in contact with the location in Half Moon Bay where the meetings were held prior to COVID. So Summer, if you want to say a little bit about that location.
Yes, sure. So I believe the location prior to COVID was the Ted Adcock South Day Room, was where the AAC meetings were being held. We do have the opportunity to reestablish meetings at that location. I have not personally been to that room. I assume some of you that were on the committee prior to COVID may be more familiar with that room location. I have heard that it may be a little small and cramped. So we may want to look at if the committee feels like we may need more space may be needed for the return to in-person meetings. Definitely would be interested in hearing any input on that so that we can look around and see what other options within the TED Adcock building, which is located at 535 Kelly Avenue in Half Moon Bay, or potentially, we could look at if the library might have better space. So, or other locations around that area if any committee members have any suggestions.
Thank you so much, Sophie and Summer. I believe Rob Skinner has his hand up again.
I do. We at PMAC, we're going to start with a hybrid meeting in March, our March monthly meeting. And we've been testing a product called OWL, OWL, that's working incredibly well. It's not that expensive when you know you can amortize it over a few years, but what it is, it looks like a cone that sits in the room, and it'll swivel around and zoom in and pick up any member in the audience that's speaking, and the quality is superb. And it also will put a camera on the board members, and all of this is projected up to a smart TV in the room of any size, whatever you guys want to do. And the quality is unbelievable. It's a high def. The audio is superb. And we tested it. I went all the way to the back of the district offices at the school district, and it zoomed in on me and picked up my speech. Everybody online couldn't understand and hear and see. So you may want to consider that if you guys want to go into hybrid meetings. Obviously, as Sophie says, board members would be present physically. And for the most part, I think guest speakers of honor will want to be there in person to say hello. But for those of you that can't make it or live out of the county, like Sophie said, it could accommodate their needs really well. So I highly recommend you look into that possibility. And you mentioned about a meeting space. Possibly the Farm Bureau would share theirs. They have an excellent meeting room, and it's all the same business. It's all ag. So some of you might want to consider talking to those folks as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that recommendation. We'll definitely look into that.
Yeah, I just did a quick Google search. It looks like it's available at the Office Depot, so, or probably lots of other places. And it looks kind of cute, really, the owl.
Actually, it is.
Yeah, so that would allow, I guess the hybrid meeting would allow so that I'm make sure I'm understanding the different options. That would allow participation of a county facilitator without having them necessarily be present. And it would also potentially help us involve community members that want to be able to attend the meeting without having to be physically present. But it would not change the need of the committee members will still have to be physically present. And so doing that might allow us to keep the same late time and still have the participation of the county as a facilitator. Is that the
that's the idea. So none of these options change the requirement for members of the committee to be in person after March 1st. I will say, I think that the hybrid meeting arrangements are kind of the hardest option of all, because you have to do both things and you have to do them well. And if there's a technical interruption, you may have to cancel your meeting because it could potentially be a violation of the Brown Act. So I certainly don't want to suggest that even if there's a great technical solution like the one Mr. Skinner provided, that this is necessarily an easy arrangement, but it might address two of the challenges with the return to in-person, which is the county's participation at this time in this location, planning and building staff specifically, and also allowing additional members of the public who cannot be in person to participate through public comment. Members of the public can, of course, come and give their public comment or listen in person. It would be nice if they had the opportunity to do so remotely as well, if we could make arrangements for an effective hybrid meeting.
Right, but the effective hybrid meeting does require logistical management by.
It does, yeah.
Lauren, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in and just share my personal opinion that the final option presented, having planning and building staff step back from staff participation and helping manage the committee, I think that's not really a viable option. In the times that we haven't been staffed prior to COVID and going to remote meetings, this committee really would say like spun our wheels about how we could move forward, what the boundaries of the PAD zoning was in relation to whatever conversation we were having and recommendations we were making for projects. And it really limited the ability for this committee to be effective at the work we're being asked to do for the county. So in terms of changing the meeting time to ensure staff participation, I completely defer to the farmers on this committee, because I understand that meeting time allows farmers to finish their workday. And even when I first started on this committee in the summer, we started at 7:30 p.m. because it was after sundown and after the work was done. So I completely defer to farmers on updating the timing, but just want to put it out there. It's this committee's not has trouble doing the work that we're asked to do for the county without that staffing. So personally, my preference would be to make the extra effort, have a hybrid meeting, and perhaps ad hoc staff, or I would recommend library would be a good option, because it's a newer building with more tech. We might have some more tech support there, so it might be an option.
I'm sorry, Lauren, it cut out. What was the building?
I'm having a bad
just
internet day,
mentioned?
guys. Sorry. Life on the coast. I'm not sure where it cut out there, but I'll stop there and jump back in when needed.
Oh,
It
no,
was just the building name. Yeah.
What was the
The
building
library.
name that you mentioned? Or anybody, if they caught it?
I think she said the library.
Oh, okay,
I
thank you.
think so too. I think she's the library.
Okay,
Thank you.
my sound just came back. So yeah, I was going to recommend the library might have some more tech support if we do move forward with the hybrid option.
Got it, thank you.
Just for a little bit of context, at the TED Adcock, we were in the smallest meeting room behind the kind of office desk entry area. There's a slightly larger one as well. That might be a better option to still allow for some physical distancing. So there's 2 size meeting rooms there. That might be an option at TED Adcock, but we might have more tech support at the library.
Thank you, Lauren. So I guess we should probably come to a conclusion on this, or need to. Does anyone on the committee have a strong feeling about changing the time to be able to accommodate the schedule of the planning staff? Ryan, Casey?
I'm not opposed to moving. Well, I guess I would advocate for actually moving the time forward a little bit in the evening. For me, like a 6 to 8 would be easier than a 7 to 9 or a 5 to 7. And I also just wanted to point out that, yeah, I don't think we should lose the support of the county staff. So if that means getting whatever we need to make it a hybrid meeting, we should do that, or even change the time to the afternoon if necessary. But I think if we lose that support, I think we'd really struggle here.
Thanks, Ryan. Jonathan?
Yeah, I really second Ryan's choices there. I don't have a strong opinion about moving the time, but I do hybrid type meetings all day for work, and I find them really effective. I think if we get some hardware and equipment together and a general plan for doing it, I think it'd be a pretty effective format, and really include a lot of the public members. That being said, if we decide that as a committee, I'd be happy to help support the logistics side of that. That's all. Thanks.
Thanks, Jonathan. It's great to have someone who feels comfortable with the tech on the committee if we do go that way.
I guess this is Lauren again. I guess I have a question for the committee in terms of changing the time. Are there strong opinions one way or the other? Any folks with, particularly farmers with real limitations to changing the meeting time?
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to pushing it forward to an earlier time. I think that I can manage. It's a bit of a burden on for childcare for my wife, regardless. But yeah, the remote meetings have been have had their advantage to making it a little easier to get to the meeting, because we do have to drive up there from Pescadero as well. But yeah, if we were to do like a 5 o'clock or something, I could make that work.
Yeah, I'm trying to think regarding childcare, what's easier? I'm like after bed and bath time, or or before, like would moving it up to 5 hit after school and dinner time, or is keeping this time, are we after bedtime? Defer to the caretakers on the committee. So I've heard a couple folks say they wouldn't mind moving it up to 5 or 6, which is the second option. Any strong opinions on moving it up into that 9 to 5 workday, which may be irrelevant to farmers? Looks like James has signed up.
I just wanted to say that I'm pretty flexible for dealing with anything. But I guess I'm more curious on what planning thinks about, these time slots. And I mean, it seems like the thing that people are most concerned with is having staff there and how that time period works for them.
Great question.
So if I could address that briefly, I think from the planning and building staff perspective, earlier in the evening is probably an improvement over 7 to 9. Daytime would be easiest of all because it's within the standard workday for staff, and so not running into sort of the outside of work responsibilities plus the commute. So that would probably be easiest, but we do know there's real limitations, especially when we're talking about farmers and their and running into conflicts with their workday.
Jess, did you have your hand up, or was that a?
Yeah, I was just wondering, is there a reason that we have to have it in Half Moon Bay? Is it easier to, if we moved it up, to have it in Pescadero?
I'd love to see it in Pescadero. I'm not sure where that meeting would take place, unless it was at one of the schools or something.
Yeah, Or doesn't PMAC have their meetings in the church / community center? So I might be able to meet where they're already meeting. Would that make it even harder for county staff? But I guess if we're doing a hybrid, if we're talking about hybrid, it's less relevant for county, but that would certainly be a longer drive for them coming over the hill.
Yeah, and it just so happens that 3 of the farmers are Pescadero based, right, on the committee right now. But I know that, you know, historically there's usually a Half Moon Bay contingent as well. And I think probably, you know, for Corin, it might be easier to be in Half Moon Bay, for example.
I defer to the group, but definitely easier for me in Half Moon Bay.
Got another question for planning staff. I have a feeling that we're one of the more unique, getting the feeling that we're one of the more unique situations or committees that might require a bit more accommodation. But is there, what's kind of standard? Can you provide any insights on what other decisions other committees are making that we can use as a touchstone for this conversation?
Yes, I can share a couple of examples. So I would say you probably are, AAC probably is one of the more unique groups, but we have groups that are definitely going to provide a hybrid option, mainly for members of the public to participate. But for the most part, all of those that I have heard about are happening at County Center, either in the board chambers or another meeting room at County Center that is much more equipped for that kind of technological setup. I have heard from a meeting we held on this topic last week that it sounds like a number of groups are going to move ahead with in-person only, mainly because it is the easier option. There's just less to manage that way. So I think that a lot of groups will try that arrangement. What I took away from a county meeting we had with staff who support these boards and commissions last week was that one thing we probably want to avoid is shifting back and forth between in-person only meetings and hybrid meetings, because that can create a lot of confusion. So I think we just want to settle on one option and stick with that, whether that's hybrid or fully in person. It sounds like this group is definitely open to the hybrid. But that was one takeaway. I will also say that staff and the CEO who support boards and commissions and committees, if you have not already received an email from Connie Juarez-Durrell, who is the county's legislative director, you should be receiving one soon. She was planning to send out an email about this return to in-person to all members of boards, commissions, and committees, outlining some of the things I talked about. So you should be receiving additional guidance from her as well.
Sophie, a few clarifying questions here. So if it's hybrid and planning staff is participating remotely, we would also have to open it up then to the public. And if we had technical difficulties at the meeting, we would have to cancel our meeting because it wasn't open to the public at that time, and we had put that on the agenda.
Yeah, if it sounds like if we encountered technical difficulties during a meeting that prevented us from accommodating public participation in a hybrid fashion, and we had advertised that this was a hybrid meeting, that could potentially be a violation of the Brown Act. And so we would need to cancel the meeting and continue those items to a subsequent meeting.
Is there an option to have planning staff participate remotely, but not have it open to the public? I know that probably isn't the best option because it is great to have public participation. I'm just kind of worried, I guess, about the service, Wi-Fi service on the coast.
Mhm. So there's nothing in the Brown Act that prevents, or in the new law, AB 2449, that prevents members of the public or staff from participating remotely. I don't know that there was anything that would prevent us from allowing staff to participate remotely, but not the public, and requiring the public to participate in person. But I think that would be extremely difficult to message and communicate clearly and effectively. So I don't think that would be a viable option.
Okay. Another question I have for the group is, I've heard that, and I thought it was the Chamber of Commerce and Half Moon Bay had a Zoom room. And this was like maybe a number of years ago. I thought I heard that they had one. And so it was, had all the technology in the room. I don't know if has anyone heard of anything about that?
Michelle Dragony has her hand up, who I believe she works with the chamber.
Okay.
Hi, yes, they do have a Zoom room, but Coastside County Water District also has a Zoom room. And it probably is set up more appropriate for a public agency such as yourself. They meet on Wednesdays. They don't meet on Monday nights. So that could work. The city of Half Moon Bay is going to go back to Ted Adcock, and they will have to have Zoom infrastructure put in there. I know that Jessica Blair, who's the city clerk, she's been working on it, and they've been testing some stuff out. PMAC could work if you got a Starlink. I just got one. It's great. No more Comcast. And using the OWL might take a little while to figure out, but I mean, I was Googling it too. It looks like a great product. And if PMAX figured it out, then you don't have to. They can just show you how to do it.
Thank you so much for clarifying, Michelle. You mentioned, sorry, I missed, what was the other group that has a Zoom room as well?
See, well, okay, you're gonna have Coastside County Water District, they're on Main Street, and then the Ted Adcock, which is where city council has their meetings. Normally, they haven't had them for 3 years, but they're coming back.
That's very, very helpful info.
And PCTV, Pacific Coast Television, is the one that does the recording at Ted Adcock. I don't think they do it for CCWD. I think they do their own recording. They have their own YouTube channel.
Great, thank you. Well, that kind of answers, I was wondering if the Ted Adcock Center had the capacity to host hybrid meetings. So hearing that the city of Half Moon Bay is updating that, since they'll need to anyway, is really good input. Something else I want to throw out there logistically, I just checked the hours at the library, because one of the things when we were still meeting in person consistently, we're like the last thing happening in Ted Adcock, and they want to walk out the door at 9 p.m. when we're still concluding our meeting. So that was constantly a staffing issue there. And so same thing to consider if we wind up really seriously considering the library. And just looked up, they close at 8 p.m. So we would absolutely need to adjust our meeting time to account for those hours. So just another logistical point to consider. My gut, I'm just going to throw it out there. My gut is saying maybe hybrid meetings from 5:30 to 7:30. I think if we did 6 to 8, we'd be running up against facility closures. So getting it a little bit sooner. And just for me personally, although see how much longer I'm sitting in this position, I wrap up my workday at 5. So having a little bit of a buffer to physically get someplace would be a little bit easier. Although I could always plan ahead and, wrap up work sooner. But I have a feeling that an earlier hybrid meeting time might be the best solution here.
and the chair will provide dinner for everyone.
Ooh, that'll sweeten the deal. Can make it a potluck, take turns.
That is the one concern I do have with that time is
Oh, yeah,
we
people need to eat
haven't had a chance to eat
at normal times.
It's not
Yeah, so then maybe
Eat
6
after
to 8 at Ted Adcock would give us that buffer. I just think if we did 6 to 8 at the library, we'd have some issues there.
Should we vote on one of that option that you've offered, or do we want to have two options and see which one's most popular? I feel a little bit, Jonathan seems confident, so I feel like we could handle the hybrid.
And I can also help out too on that front. So we got 2 willing tech assists.
And then, of course, for planning staff, I think us actually meeting during the work hours is most preferable, but I don't know. That kind of changes Monday a bit for folks that are trying to get a full workday in.
Yeah, my only other thought with that is that this is a volunteer committee. So asking members of the public to give up their workday hours is asking a lot. And it might limit long-term participation in this committee if it gets moved into the workday.
Yeah. Okay, well, I like the 5:30 to 7:30 shoot for the nice room in the library, but Ted Adcock could also work with that. Either could work with that time. Gives us a half hour to get up there after 5. And then if we were to do that hybrid, then we could have the planning staff continue to participate. So I guess I could make a motion. I'll make a motion that this committee adopts a new meeting time in Half Moon Bay, location to be decided, 5:30 to 7:30 hybrid to allow for participation of county staff and the public.
I'll second that, John.
Sorry, I missed the second. Was
Jonathan.
okay. To adapt to the new meeting time in Half Moon Bay, location TBD, at 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. hybrid meeting, allow participation of county staff and public. Are we ready for a roll call vote or any discussion or questions on the motion?
May I, Chair Vars, just make a quick comment before the vote? I just want to make sure it's clear that there's still logistics and things on our end that we would need to work out to make this recommended approach work. So just for anyone tuning in, this isn't a vote. This vote isn't solidifying that this is the new location and time. We still need to work out and make sure we can find the room and do all of that work as well. So this is a recommendation to staff to pursue this approach, and we'd have to follow up and of course confirm that we've got a right room at the right time and have all the technological stuff worked out. So just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Yes, thank you. That's good. So this is we're voting on a preferred plan. And
Jonathan, was your hand up?
Yeah, just really briefly, kind of what Summer was saying, that like, my ability to be able to host that meeting remotely is kind of contingent on the hardware of the room. So it's a preferred plan. I agree with that.
Internet dipped again. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can, yes.
Okay, you just started moving again. Okay, are we ready for a roll call vote on the motion? Okay, I see a thumbs up. I'm going with it. Okay, Judy, and what may be your last official vote on this committee?
I know, I was just gonna say, is it appropriate for me to vote?
Yes, of course. Still a voting member.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, just to second what you said, having the county staff there is extremely important. Given when I first joined, they weren't there very often and it was really a problem. So I'm definitely going to say yes.
Second that. Okay, Jonathan,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Oh, I completely missed James again. Sorry, James. James.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, Ryan, and then Fred, Lauren, and I vote yes. So you may unanimously passes.
Thanks for the recommendation and thank you for all of your input.
No, thank you for helping facilitate the conversation and doing all the legwork to give us these options to work with. So thank you, Sophie, for coming tonight.
Thanks.
Okay, great. And then that moves us to our final item on the agenda, the item number 8. Am I unmuted? Okay, good. Community Development Director's Report.
Yeah, thank you. It's a short report. If you were able to review before the meeting, there were no new projects that, no new planned agricultural district projects that were submitted to the county within this past month times period, and no planned agricultural district projects that were taken to the Board of Supervisors or the Planning Commission during this period. There were no CDX, coastal development exemption applications filed during this last month. It's been a slow month for PAD stuff. No announcements are listed. The only one, which I've already mentioned in the committee comments, was that we're revising the recruitment for vacancies to factor in Judy and Fred's departures. So once I have that, again, that updated notification from the boards and commissions office, I'll send that around. And please just feel free to pass that along to anyone you think might be interested in joining the committee to go ahead and apply.
Great,
And that's it. Thank you.
One note on the vacancies I want to throw out there. My supposedly impending move to Santa Cruz is not moving all that fast because housing is difficult in the Bay Area, as we've been discussing tonight. So I want to make sure my continued participation in this committee is appropriate and above board and follows the Brown Act and everything, but I'm more than available to continue in this position until it's filled. I think that was the last I left it. So if that is still helpful to the committee, I'm happy to do so. If I need to reapply for this position for the next term, for as long as I can serve in that position, I'm open to that as well, but just want to volunteer to help stay involved and especially help transition us back to in-person meetings. However, that's appropriate and helpful.
Lauren, it may, I will probably follow up with you and have you submit a short bio that we can send over to the board to, it sounds like maybe just going ahead and renewing your term for the time being would probably be the appropriate step. And if
Okay.
you of course, needed to resign, hopefully that doesn't happen, but if you do need to resign, that's always an option, but probably going ahead and getting you on the books as a renewed member.
Okay, great. Let's do that. Little bit of context, probably TMI, but I was finals for a spot in Santa Cruz. I thought I was gonna.
I want to know.
Uh-oh, it cut out.
Sorry, Lauren, we've lost
A
you.
cliffhanger.
But I know, finalist.
What, finals for what?
Oh, she really's gone this time.
It's
And-
out again.
oh,
Darn,
there we
man. On Terra, the internet really hasn't come back this term. I have no idea what you guys can hear right now or not.
You left us
Yeah.
hanging. What happened to finding a place?
Okay, I really cut out there early then. We're saying I was in a place I thought I was moving in November, and that's why I didn't renew the term, because I thought it was actual pen, and that fell through, and I still haven't found a place 4 months later. So however my participation needs to happen, I'll whatever paperwork's good.
Great. Well, thank you, Lauren. We're very happy that you're still with us, especially with Fred stepping down. And really appreciate your contribution.
Such a working on this team. Thank you.
So I guess that brings us to the end. And we'll look forward to reviewing the ag tourism recommendations for next time, which will be in person. Still to be determined exactly how that will go. We'll look forward to hearing from you, Summer, on that.
Yes, and there will also be I believe there will be a planning project that will be coming in March for the committee as well. And potentially, I think the Ag Advisory, the AAC bylaws, I've been working with County Council to make some suggested revisions to the bylaws. So we're hoping to be able to have that draft completed to be able to bring to the Ag Advisory Committee as well.
Well, we're gonna have a little business because you're gonna have like 6 months of minutes approved, tourism letter, and then whatever else comes from the planning department.
Okay. Sounds like it'll be action packed. Judy might want to just come for
I
the
know.
fun.
Yeah, by and by.
I know, I can't believe after all this time, I'm going to miss the ag tourism, the final, coming together. I may have to come just for that.
Okay, well,
Love to see you.
everybody. With that, I will adjourn the meeting unless there's any other final comments. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Take
John.
care, everybody.
Thank you, Judy.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
Take
you.
care.
Thanks,
See
Judy.
you on
We'll
Monday
meet-
next month.
Let's see you guys. Yeah, bye.